Well, welcome everyone to our webinar with our global vendor partner, Williams AV, on choosing the right assisted living technology for your space. I'm Tom Roberts, Director of Vendor Programs for the PSNI Global Alliance. And from Williams AV, we have Nancy Blanchard, PSNI Champion and Global Consultant Liaison, along with Pierre Pearson, Vice President of International Sales. During the project, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I just wanted to note that during the project design phase of any project that we work on and when we're developing the scope of work, we have the opportunity to include technologies that help people hear better. The PSNI Global Alliance is represented by 227 certified service providing companies worldwide, is very proud to have Williams AV's technologies available to us to improve a person's access to sound, allowing for exceptional customer experiences, something we all strive for. Today's webinar is being recorded. All attendees will be in the listen-only mode. We do encourage you to ask questions, so please use the question box to the right of the screen. Now let me introduce Nancy Blanchard, Consultant Liaison at Williams AV.
Thank you, Tommy. Boy, can you believe it's the last month of 2021? And it's also our final webinar for Williams AV for 2021 as well. So I'm happy today to be able to talk to you about choosing the right assistive listening technology for your space. Because if we look at today is that organizations have a variety of technology options to meet disability legislation requirements. But which assistive listening technology is suitable for your specific application or your specific project, your specific venue? So that's what we're going to do is today discuss that, and hopefully you can take away and understand a little bit more about the different options that are available to you for your projects. Now, if we look at the hard of hearing statistics, over 1 billion people, that's 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability, and that's according to the World Health Organization. Hearing loss is a potentially debilitating condition that affects people worldwide. And so if we look at loud noise is one of the most common forms of hearing loss, as well as loud music, and there's a variety of other ones that I'll discuss. But if we were to look at, and if hard of hearing individuals was a country, it would be the third largest country in the world. And talking about different types of hearing loss, causes of it, is when you think about noise, simply from a lawnmower to snow blowers, or also we can consider loud concert music. And I'm sure we all can put up our hand, especially in our youth, that we attended many loud music concerts, and we were excited that as soon as we found out our favorite band was playing, we bought tickets. And then if you were lucky enough and you were standing up there in front of the stage, there were ginormous speakers, and you could feel the vibration as well as the boom, boom, boom. And then once the concert was done and you left, then you had the ringing in the ears, and it might take some time for you to be able to start hearing clearly again. Well, that's because, with concerts, is that a sound over 85 decibels has the potential to cause hearing loss. And usually with concerts it often exceeds 100 decibels. So therefore, think about it. Just 2 minutes of exposure to 110 decibels, that can cause hearing loss pretty quickly. And so what another area that we look at with most common form of hearing loss would be representing 90% of all cases. And that's related to the deteriorating effects of aging on hearing. So usually we look at 43% of persons that are age 65 and older suffer from measurable hearing loss. And going back to the concert, when we were in our youth, we didn't think about all of that large music and what could happen. Let's fast forward to your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. All of a sudden now you're hearing muffled sounds. You're having to ask people to repeat because you couldn't quite clearly hear what they were saying. And with the World Health Organization, they put together a 2021 World Report on hearing. And it estimates that about 1 in 4 people, or about 2.5 billion worldwide, will have some type of hearing loss by 2050. And so there are a number of national and international advocacy groups as listed below, as well as on this page that I've included of the various countries that provide protection to individuals and ensures that, you know, a building and any services that are provided there are equally accessible to everyone, including those with hearing loss. What is hearing loss? Hearing loss really, it's essentially that it eliminates one's or limits one's ability to be able to communicate. And then through this is that it limits a person's ability to interact with their community. There may be the absence of appropriate supports. Also with hearing loss, I touched upon aging and also, you know, environmental noise exposure induced hearing loss. But it could also be physical trauma and the use of certain drugs and medications. Hearing loss, it may be permanent, it may be short-term, and it may commonly exist with other conditions. But sometimes hearing, it just isn't about, hearing isn't just about hearing loss. There are other conditions such as bad sound, or probably could be poor room acoustics. One is soft-spoken presenters, or that presenter has an accent, and so it's hard concentrating to hear what they're saying, or maybe there are technical terms that are being used. If we look at lots of background noise, we've all attended conferences that were either in convention centers, they were in hotel ballrooms, and even though the doors are shut, you're still having that clanging and the conversation that's taking place outside in the halls. And that also can make it harder for you to be able to focus on what the speaker is discussing. So why are assistive listening systems needed? Well, you know, even with the best sound, is that most public facilities are unable to accommodate the needs of the person who has a hearing impairment. Now, a hearing aid, it does, of course, provide some assistance. However, consider is that the further the listener is away from the sound source, the greater will be the level of both background noise and reverberation. So one thing that can be done with hearing aids is that you can increase the gain of the hearing aid, and it does increase the level of the sound to the person who's hard of hearing. However, in doing so, you're also increasing the level of the background noise. So now the clarity of the sound appears no better. And then more often than not is that the wearer with the hearing aid is that they may experience some discomfort, and that's due to the increased volume. And those without a hearing aid, that is where you have the use of a hearing augmentation system, a receiver, and that will bring then the sound source directly to the person's ear. And as we know with many things is that not one technology fits all, and that is the same with assistive listening. We need to consider, for example, spaces. What's the size? What's the shape of the space? As well as the aesthetics, construction materials that are being used, and is there other equipment that has interference? When we're looking at organizations, whether it be a court system or a cinema, what is the security? Do you need to have that secure communication, the confidential conversations, and then as well as budget? So with FM and IR is that it's low cost system, easy to install, versus a loop is that now it becomes a little bit more costly, a little bit more involved, because is it a retrofit or is it a new construction? And then finally, with the users, is that you know, they're more comfortable these days using their own devices, bringing their own smartphones. And then there are others that, you know, they want to have that discretion. They don't want a bulky receiver. They want something that's small, sleek, that will fit into their pocket. And then more importantly is the ease of use. So which assistive technology for inclusion fits where? Let's look at the first one, which is induction loop. So if we're looking at these technologies and which one is best suited for your specific use case, is induction loops are good for performing arts, for airports, for houses of worship, because you have that direct to hearing aid without a receiver. If it's infrared, IR, now we have courts in education, cinemas, performing arts, and that provides you with that secure transmission, so the signal is kept within the room and it's low cost, easy to install. Another option might be FM. FM, similar being to IR, is that it is easy to use, it's low cost, but it does cover a larger coverage area. So you might find FM in stadiums and at houses of worship as an example. Digital RF. Now, our digital RF, our DigiWave, really, because of the pandemic, is there have been applications that have come out of it that traditionally it wasn't being used for, and that was the social distance communication. Also is that it is a secure option and it's a portable solution. So instead of having a permanent install in each room, each location, there's actually a kit, and you can take it from one room to the next, and it's easy to set up. And then finally, we have Wi-Fi. Now, Wi-Fi, we use it at home, we use it at work, we use it when we're out in the public. Everyone feels comfortable using that with their smartphone. And so with Wi-Fi, with it being everywhere, it's used in education, stadiums, for corporate, performing arts. You'll have, like in airports, a TV display that's audio streaming, and it also could be for corporate, which I've seen is more for lunchrooms and lobbies too.
Yeah, maybe an example there, Nancy, would be kind of a fun one is Coca-Cola factory in Argentina that has the Wavecast system in their lunchroom. So if you want to chat, like if you're a social person like Nancy, you can do that. If you're a loner like me, you don't want to talk to people, you just want to watch TV, you can do that without disturbing other people. And as far as stadiums goes, the go-to system in that case is usually FM, because you can get a large coverage area without having a lot of wiring. So we have systems in a few NFL stadiums, in Madison Square Garden, and for the upcoming Soccer World Cup in Qatar here next year. But I think one important point too is, you have the examples of the specific venues that typically we install a certain technology in, but as you mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of flexibility depending on what the specific client or integrator or consultants see as a need for the space.
Yeah, thanks, Per. Yeah. And what I did was I included this image, so it gives you a comparison of the technologies that I've been talking about. And the main advantage of each technology is circled in red. So the right choice of technology will depend on your venue and your needs. So if you're looking at hearing aid compatibility, then that would be where you would consider an induction loop. If it be with the complexity of the installation, where you need it to be easy to install, that would be your analog RF. Also, infrared is we need to have that confidentiality to be ensured, and that would be IR because its strength is that it has the signal maintained within the walls. And then with digital RF is a portable solution. And finally, with Wi-Fi is that you have that smartphone compatibility. So let's look at with Williams AV is we have the 5 pillars of technology. So we have assistive listening solutions, human interpretation, wireless intercom, but we've branched out because what we have discovered, what we have recognized is that, not only are we addressing for assistive listening, but now more importantly, there is the assistive understanding market and the assistive visual for the deaf and hard of hearing. So in branching out now, we have solutions that are industry first of AI captioning and translation. as well as we do have a video annotation, which is for higher res 4K images that would be used in hospitals or as well as in courtrooms. As you said, Per, the NFL, even athletic colleges, they're using it so that they can go through play-by-plays. They can use it for the players for training. But with our traditional assistive listening, of the ones that I've touched upon, with AI captioning and translation, is that Caption Assist is real-time open captioning. You would find this, let's say, in a house of worship. So not only is the person singing and hearing the hymn, however, they can follow along up on screen because they're seeing, as it's being sung, they're seeing the hymn being portrayed or displayed on the display. Another area might be for live events in using the real-time open captioning. With Convey is not only do you have the real-time open captioning, but you have the translation. So up to 109 languages, and if we look at language and dialects in total, you have 137, and that is continually growing. But for translation, it could be a commencement where you've got parents that have come in because you have non-native speakers. And so with those students is you might choose the input language as English. And then for the parents, maybe it's Mandarin because the majority, there's a large majority of students that speak Mandarin. And so the parents are able to follow along because it's translated on the screen for them. So many different types of applications of branching out into the AI side. So let's get a little bit more into our assistive listening technologies. And there are some considerations. You know, in addition to securing audio streams, we also have to avoid overlap and interference between adjacent and stacked spaces. And so if audio has to be contained within a room or contained to a specific area for audience members, now it comes the challenge of designing for everywhere and access for everyone. What technology do you use? Do you use a loop system, FM, IR, digital RF, or Wi-Fi? Especially in these type of environments, which are governments, courtrooms, higher education lectures, conference centers, corporate boardrooms, and then additional considerations would play into of security. So if it's in an executive boardroom, certainly you're going to want to have an IR system secured because they're talking about financials and you don't want for anyone outside of that to be able to listen in. And then also easy access to the system. So let's start off with a loop. Many prefer a loop system over other technologies when routed through a hearing aid. It's tuned to their hearing specifically, and that results for them in increased intelligibility as well as a better hearing experience. You know, there's a variety of applications where you would see loop systems, and you know, maybe Per, you can also talk about some of them internationally, but this shows you, gives you a visual, is that everywhere from stadia to tourism to retail, transport concourses, airports. Is there any that you want to add on of ones that you know of?
Yeah, I think there's, you know, we have a number of universities in the US and internationally. We have actually installed loop systems in, you know, high profile government installs as well. So it is doable. I think, you know, infrared is kind of the foolproof option because the signal literally will not go through a wall. So you don't have to worry so much about, you know, having the perfect design. But loop systems are certainly very versatile. And for a user, there is a very convenient system. You don't have to borrow a receiver. You get the signal directly to your hearing aid, provided that you have a TCOL equipped hearing aid.
Thanks. And you may not know this though, but loop technology, assistive technology, it's been around since 1937. And that I was surprised by even for myself. But, you know, why we said with loops being great is that you don't have to bring a receiver. You know, you can, it's sanitary, it's discreet, but you have to keep in mind though, proper training is needed to install and to commission a loop. It's complicated and expensive to install in an existing space versus if it's a new build. If you can get in from new construction and be able to work with the contractors, then it makes it a lot easier as a concourt's being poured. But if it's going to be, you know, a retrofit, then you have to start pulling up the carpet, and then there's other considerations. Also is that loops must be designed properly by experts, and that's where Williams AV comes in, is because we have our Tech Blue team, and they are there from the start to the finish with you in recommending what would properly work within that space, as well as assisting with designs. Some design considerations. So depending on your country is that there will be compliance. So you must be aware of that standard for performance, as well as a site survey is highly recommended. And that is really to determine, you know, sources of environmental interference. Also the building materials, what is being used must be considered so that, you know, if there's metal present, well, it will significantly reduce the field strength. And then, as I had said, and I'll give you at the end of the presentation, is please reach out to Tech Blue. You can do that through our website, through email, and they will work with our CSPs free of charge. And there's also training that is available that is AVIX accredited too. Infrared. So we've gone from loop. Let's look at infrared and why is IR great? The signal's contained in the room, so that is good where you have security and confidentiality, that's important. Also, it can be used where both hearing assistance, audio description, and interpretation is needed. And with it being low cost, it can be used also within existing spaces. But just keep in mind that, you know, with the line of sight is required, so the emitters must be mounted within the room. And then also, you know, depending on, obviously you can't use it outdoors. And then also, you know, you have to look at the room and, you know, are there large windows? Where's the direct sunlight? So applications, this would be, you know, if we're looking at not only assistive listening, but interpretation, is that you have audio description for visually impaired. That would be in performance centers, and also secure technology for cinemas supporting hearing and visually impaired. This image here, it shows you what I've been talking about of where you have the transmitter, it's at the front of the room, and then you have the IR light, which think of it like a flashlight, and then the person that has a receiver is catching what is in that pattern. So individuals use their receivers anywhere to hear that clear sound. And you will notice, so on the bottom left-hand side of this slide is the IR receivers as well as the earpieces. And on the right-hand side, which is what I'm going to introduce to you, is our system called IR Plus. So not only is it IR, but you also have Wi-Fi in the unit. And with having that Wi-Fi capability now is that you can use your smartphone or you can use our Wi-Fi receiver. So you'll see that in the following slides. This is just a quick comparison of the different IR options. And the one thing is at the bottom, you'll see the coverage area. So if you're looking at just like 1,001 square feet, that might be for a hospital room or a really small room, then you would go with the IRT1. Now, moving on to the IRT2, you see that it has up to 18,000 square feet. But with IR Plus at the end is that it has many unique features, and that sets it aside from the other offerings. So while IR Plus does cover a very large space, we really see it as a crossover solution for many medium-sized venues. And that is for those that want to be able to take advantage of the Dante option and the Wi-Fi integration. So IR Plus, you have IR technology, Wi-Fi in one unit. So now you've got the advantage for IR for those that don't have a smartphone that can use a receiver. And then also the Wi-Fi side is that you can bring your own device and it's discreet. Now this is just an example to show you, but with our emitter, distributed emitter array design, is that you can reach odd shapes of venues. So the array design allows for greater coverage and more flexibility. So with just that one IR plus, that one modulator, is that you have up to 4 emitters. And you know, you've got this flexible coverage according to the space. And many have disqualified IR with the impression that IR requires that direct line of sight. However, now with new technology, especially with the new LED technology, is that it's far more efficient. And so you have greater coverage with the benefits of reflection. And our design philosophy behind this is that we want to be able to provide flexibility, but also scalable options. So for large or segmented spaces. So the emitters that are on here, you'll see on the left-hand side where it says long room, is that you can have the emitters where they're placed on top of one another, or you can have them set in corners, or have one in a balcony and then have another obscured venue location. And with Williams AV, you know, we're at the forefront of technology because they introduced 2 technologies in one unit, because why have only one? So along with IR plus of IR and Wi-Fi is that you also have FM plus, FM and Wi-Fi. So our products are providing the service of real-time streaming audio that's ready for distribution via Wi-Fi.
And I think the benefit again is it's such an individual choice. So if we think about the university student, many of them will prefer to use their own phone, maybe stream via Bluetooth up to their own, to the hearing aids, or maybe use their earbuds, whereas someone like my mother will prefer just going into a venue, borrowing the receiver, putting them on, very easy to do.
Yeah. And the one thing also that I'll point out for venues, you know, if you're not wanting, let's say that you're wanting right now just the IR application or the FM application, what's great is that in the future now you have that accessibility that you can enable the Wi-Fi portion too. So it can be disabled. For FM applications is, you know, we talked about large venues and outdoor applications for it, as well as interpretation and tour guides. Now this is just quick, you know, some of the key features of FM. You have that it operates on a 72 to 76 megahertz. It offers 17 channels and battery life is 50 hours, depending on whether you're using the rechargeable or the alkaline. The FM products, there's 3 different types of receivers, a variety of different microphones, headphones, and then you've got charging bays. And then for those that are international, and there are countries that obviously the 72 to 76 megahertz will not work, is that there is this 863 megahertz system too. And so these are the different accessories and components for that. So if you are interested in knowing about more of our international solution, you can reach out to myself or to Pear. And that just shows you quick FM plus. As we said, you have FM receiver or use your own smart device. And let's move on. So you don't need FM, you don't need IR, but you just want a Wi-Fi solution. So these are the markets that require audio over dedicated Wi-Fi. Everything from drive-ins to museum exhibits. If it's a display with a TV display with audio streaming, well, then you can consider an airport or stadium lounges, hotels, restaurants, bars, casinos, fitness studios. Instructor comes in, they connect to Wi-Fi, they conduct their class. Once they're done, then they disconnect, and then the next instructor comes in. But there's 4 audio presets for Wavecast, and that would be, you've got your hearing assistants, that's optimized for hearing loss. Another one would be music for high fidelity playback. And then voice can be set for maximum speech intelligibility. And then there's also custom presets. So if there are specific performance applications, then you can also establish certain presets. Wi-Fi considerations. Well, simply is that it's great because there's less need for receiver management because you can bring your own device. They're discreet, the young are comfortable with using them, it's used everywhere. However, there should be some receivers still provided by the venue for those that aren't using or don't have a smartphone.
So one unique thing we did is we developed a receiver, as you can see on the bottom left corner. It looks like a small smartphone. It's an interesting design consideration. It's attractive enough to be easy to use, but not so attractive that too many people want to steal it. But it's we are the first ones to offer that in the industry because our feeling is according to ADA regulations and regulations in most countries, some receivers are still required. And then just as a service for the people needing the assistance, whether you don't have your own smartphone or you're not comfortable downloading an app or you don't have the appropriate battery life.
Right. Yeah, and that's the most important thing to say is that this is an industry first dedicated receiver for accessibility compliance. Now, with our two systems that we have, two units, is that there's Wavecast, which is a single channel, and then there's Wavecast 8, which is 8 channels. So with the single channel Wavecast is you can actually take 4 boxes and stack them, 4 units, and that will give you 4 channels. With Wavecast 8 is that you have 8 channels in one, you can take 8 units, and then that makes a total of 64 channels. But as with all of our products, again, is that you have the Dante option. And it's really important to us. We want to make your jobs easier. And so instead of you wasting your time going through our website, trying to find the tools, the information that you need, we want to be able to make it easier to work with Williams AV. And so things such as this network guide checklist, we have these resources and these tools available to you. And so when you're setting up a Wavecast is that you can go through this checklist to make sure that everything you can check off has been done. Now, if it also you're finding that still you need some help in troubleshooting, we have developed this network analyzer tool, and it is available through TechBlue. You can reach out to TechBlue, reach out to myself, and then it's free of charge. But it's a software application that allows the integrator, even the end user, the customer, the network support person to optimize Wavecast on their network and to help with troubleshooting. So it's used for integrators as a pre-sale tool to be able to view work on the network. It also, for network verification before an install or also during and after an install. And there's options for checking the network paths and the suitability. So you might use one laptop for a round trip check to see the network path. You might use 2 laptops, and that would be that they're connected to different nodes on a network. Or you could use the third option is use 1 laptop and a Wavecast 8. But the network analyzer tool is available to you. And what we've done is that you see here a graphical representation is that we have it color-coded red, yellow, green for easy interpretation of the results. And you've got detailed information provided for adjustments and troubleshooting, whether it be by an AV professional with a general IT knowledge or also by a network specialist. So we've seen IR and FM, but what is digital? So digital allows you to listen and talk to one another wirelessly in a variety of scenarios. And as I mentioned, is that our digital application has far exceeded what we thought the capabilities were because of the pandemic. So it's a full duplex two-way audio communication between multiple parties. And you can have many units be combined to provide one large group, or you can split them off into smaller groups for other confidential conversations. There's a transceiver, and then you have the receivers. And when I talked about IR being secure, with digital RF is that you have 2 layers of security. So you have an encryption channel access as well as a PIN code. For those areas in countries where what we had said about not being able to use FM, then digital RF, because it operates on a 2.4 gigahertz band, is that this is another option for you for your venues. So point-to-point communication, everyone hears all the time. So you can use DigiWave for interpretation. It can be used as a tour guide solution, intercom, as well as assistive listening applications. Example is that you have a doctor who's on rounds or who's operating. Well, how can that doctor be able to communicate with the students clearly? So they need a two-way broadcast. It is easy to use through, it transmits through glass as well as curtain walls and viewing rooms. And Per had an interesting call, and that was from Ireland, from a mortuary, and they were looking at how could they, because of the pandemic, be able to have the instructor and the students because they can't physically be in the room. And so DigiWave was a solution for them. And it's great.
I don't know if that's you know, our most fun marketing example, but it just kind of speaks a little bit to the versatility of the system.
Correct, yes. It's great as a social distancing communication system, as mentioned, with providing, you know, that secure environment. So it could be a factory tour. It's very loud to be able to hear one another. It can be used in courtrooms. It could be used in museums as you're doing a tour around. This gives you an example, as we talked about, where it was being mostly used during the pandemic was in courtroom situations. And we had the Derek Chauvin case that took place right where our office is in Minnesota, and you had the plexiglass. So no longer can you have the lawyer as well as the client sitting shoulder to shoulder and being able to whisper as they're having a private conversation. You have to be 6 feet apart. So you have different groups in which you might have the sidebar, you have the defense goes up to the judge to discuss an action quietly. It might be broken out where you have interpretation. So you've got the plaintiff and as well as the defense, and the interpreter is listening and then responds to those listening. So that's where, as I had discussed with you, is that you've got a larger group, and then you can break it out into smaller groups. And so this is where it is being used a lot, is in courtrooms. Here is what the transceiver and the receivers look like. As I said, is that you have 2 options. You've got alkaline batteries as well as rechargeable. And then the main accessories, so you have the charging bays and then your different types of mics. So the bottom one, that's mic 157, that might be used in a factory setting, and then you might use something different if it's in the theater and you've got the crew in the back that are talking to one another. So as for support, is please lean on us. That is what we're here for our PSNI CSPs, is to help you choose the right technology and then also design into a specific venue. With TechBlue is that they've got design services. They also will do the best for you technology, which is to suggest perhaps something that's more appropriate for that area. And then also we've got product and install training. And then, as I said, there's project pre-design assistance. So their email address is techblue@williamsav.com, and you can contact them. And then as for local PSNI support in North America, is that we have 3 territory managers, and I have listed their email addresses as well as their territories that they cover. And then Per, of course, being VP International Sales. So he'll work with you if you're international. He can put you in touch with the local distributor, or the same as myself, I can as well. And if we have any consultants that are on this webinar today, is that there is a consultant portal as well as a newsletter. And simply you go to our website, williamsav.com. At the upper top, there is a menu that says My Williams. You click on that to register. And if you want to receive the quarterly newsletter, there's a box to check, but then that request will go to Eden Prairie, Minnesota, our office. And then once it is accepted, you'll receive an email, be confirmed, and then you can access. And what I wanted to do with the consultant portal is make it easier. I listened to other manufacturers, I listened to consultants and said, what will make your job easier for projects and for you to work with Williams? And it was to be easy access to information. And so the consultant portal, it is real simple. You've got consultant specs that you can copy and paste. You've got technical documentation. You have technical diagrams, as well as there are links so that you can see any upcoming events or training videos. But you have full access to white papers, to manuals, all of that. And then as for the newsletter I send out, is that it's updates. It's just keeping you informed. And so the next one will go out in January. And then if anyone else is needing to have marketing materials to help when you're talking to clients, is that is all available on our website. Now, in terms of the PS&I CSP program, is that we offer special pricing and discounts with design assistance that's free of charge from TechBlue. And then any leads that we have, we will bring them to you. And let's just say, hopefully trade shows face-to-face so that we can be out talking to people again. But also any leads that you bring to Williams, they are kept confidential, and so we are the backbone support for you as you are working on and let you run with your project. Educational programs, as I mentioned, is that we do have training videos, but I also encourage, please reach out to me. We can arrange some Zoom meetings. So what you saw today, if you want to know more about IR or perhaps loops, then we could do a Zoom meeting and dive more into detail with those technologies. And then also we have for loop training, we've got AVIXA accredited courses. And then, as I mentioned, was the marketing material. So with that, I would like to send it back to Haley and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Nancy, for all the information. Yes, we have quite a few, so I will run through them right now. I think you touched on this a little bit, but if you will, what is the difference between DigiWave and analog RF?
So with analog RF, we talked about is that it runs on a 72 to 76 megahertz frequency. Digital RF, so it's analog, but digital RF is full duplex, so it runs on 2.4 gigahertz. So think about like your Wi-Fi. So it just has to do with the different frequency bands, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and another difference would be for the analog RF, it's one way only, and the digital RF can be two ways. So that's another major difference as well.
Thank you, guys. This is a fun one. Do you know what percentage of hearing aids on the market today will continue to have telecoils versus Bluetooth?
That's always an interesting one, and you know, I think the latest study I saw is that about 70, more than 70, perhaps even close to 80% of the hearing aids at least have the option to be telecoil compliant. So the advice for anyone needing a hearing aid is to have a conversation with your audiologist and make sure that if you're interested, take advantage of that to have the T-coil option spec'd in.
Thank you, guys. Is the captioning a single license or a subscription?
So with the captioning is that there is through our portal, it's a subscription. And so there's different tiers depending on the number of hours per week of being used and what the billing is. But we had people come back to us and say that we'd like to use it just on a per hour per case type of scenario. So there is a charge per hour for using it. So yes, there is a subscription. You just simply enter in your credit card, and then just as I said, just like your cellular bill or anything, is that, you know, it's automatically billed for the next billing cycle.
Perfect, thank you. How can somebody find out what their specific ADA requirements are within their venue?
So we actually have an ADA calculator on our website. So if you go to Williams AV, there is a special box in the top of the banner saying hearing compliance, and under that you can go in and type in how many seats you have, and that is really what will determine what the specific requirements are. And we also have for international, we have an IBC calculator, which is the International Building Code, and most international regulations are tied in some way to that.
Yeah, really great resources on the Williams site. Can the network analyzer tool be used for other audio via Wi-Fi solutions too?
No, not necessarily. There might be some benefits, but it's specifically designed for the Williams Wavecast system. So it checks the specific ports we need to have open and the specific type of communication. So if it is used for another solution and it works, that's a bonus, but it's not designed to do that.
I think I understand this. Is there a way to compare the different types of ALS?
Yeah, I think, you know, Nancy, in your PowerPoint, which we are happy to share with people who are interested, there was one slide that kind of had the comparison chart, which you went through pretty quickly, but that will give you an idea about, okay, what are the three most important things for me? And you can kind of get an idea about, oh, this particular technology seems to be a fit. Otherwise, please reach out to Nancy, myself, or any of our salespeople or tech blue people, and we can give you some specific advice.
Yeah, and you do have that PowerPoint, so that can be sent out.
Yeah, and Per, Nancy, perfect segue, because multiple questions have come in. Will we be receiving a copy of the presentation? Which absolutely, as always, as soon as we get done with this, we will be sending over all of the Great Williams information to you. So with that, it looks like those are all of our questions for now. So back over to you, Tommy.
Well, guys, what can I say? You know, here we are at the end of another year. It's been a very good year for our relationship with Williams AV. We can't thank you enough. You know, it's been a very challenging year, 2 years for that matter. You know, for our general audience, all of our certified service providers are listed on the PSNI website at psni.org. And for our members, the contact directory for Williams AV is also posted there, and all of the details under the global partner member portal. And if I can be of assistance to you, always reach out to me. I'm always available to you. And that's at troberts@psni.org. Nancy and Per, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add before we close the meeting?
I just wish everybody a happy, 2022, all the best wishes, happy holidays, and thank you for supporting Williams AV. And, we really look forward to working with you in 2022.
Yeah, thanks to Tom and Haley for a great arrangement as usual, and for all the great programs you put together. And same, Happy New Year to everybody and happy holidays.
Well, great. Well, for everyone, our global vendor webinar series will kick off on January 12th. That's Wednesday at 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time, with a program presented by our global vendor partner, Lightware Visual Engineering. The topic will be on opening new opportunities with Lightware and WebEx. With that, on behalf of the PSNI Global Alliance, thank all of you for being with us today. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.